God, like you, Lord. You are beautiful.
Mark's Gospel, chapter 6. And he went out from there and came into his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath day had come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, Where does this man get these things? And what wisdom is this which is given unto them, that even such mighty works are done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, and Joseph, and Judas, and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him. But Jesus saith unto them, A prophet is not without honor, except in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. And he could not do any mighty works there, except that he laid his hands upon a few sick folks, and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. And he went around the villages teaching. And he called the 12, and began to send them forth by 2 and 2. And he gave them power over unclean spirits, and commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey except a staff alone, no bag, no bread, no money in the belt, but to be shod with sandals, and not to put on 2 coats. And he said to them, In whatever place you enter into a house, abide there until you depart from that place. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you, when you depart from there, shake off the dust under your feet, for a testimony against them. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. And they went out and preached that men should repent. And they cast out many demons, and anointed many who were sick with oil, and healed them. And King Herod heard of him, for his name had been spread abroad, and he said that John the Baptist had risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works showed themselves in him. Others said that it was Elijah, and others said that it was a prophet, or as one of the prophets. But when Herod heard, he said, It is John whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead. For Herod himself had sent forth and laid hold upon John, and had bound him in prison because of Herodias his brother Philip's wife. For he had married her, and John had said to Herod, It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife. Therefore Herodias had a quarrel against him, and desired him to be killed. But she could not. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just and holy man. And he kept him safe, and when he heard him, he did many things, and heard him gladly. And a convenient day came when Herod made a great supper to great men on his birthday, and to the chief captains, and to the first men of Galilee. And when the daughter of Herodias herself came in and danced, and pleased Herod and those who sat with him, the king said to the girl, Ask whatever you desire from me, and I will give it to you. And he swore unto her, whatever she would ask from him, he would give it unto her, unto the half of his kingdom. And she went forth and said to her mother, What shall I ask? And she said, Ask for the head of John the Baptist. And immediately she came in with haste to the king and asked, saying, I desire that you give me at once the head of John the Baptist on a charger. And the king was exceeding sorry, but for his oath's sake, and for the sake of those who sat with him, he would not reject her. And immediately the king sent an executioner, and commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head in a charger, and gave it to the girl, and the girl gave it to her mother. And when his disciples heard, they came and took up his corpse, and laid it in a tomb. And the apostles gathered themselves together unto Jesus, and told him all the things, both what they had done, and what they had taught. And he said to them, You yourselves come apart into a desert place now, and rest for a while. For there were many coming and going, and they had no opportunity even to eat. And they privately departed into a desert place by ship. And the people saw them leaving, and many knew him, and on foot out of the cities ran together there. And they went before them, and came together to him. And when he came out, Jesus saw many people, and he was moved with compassion toward them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far gone, his disciples came to him and said, This is a desert place, and now the time has gone past. Send them away, so that they may go into the country round about, and into the villages, and buy bread for themselves, for they have nothing to eat. And he answered and said to them, You give them something to eat. And they said to him, Shall we go and buy 200 penny worth of bread, and give them to eat? And he said to them, How many loaves do you have? Go and see. And when they knew, they said, 5 and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all to sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down in ranks, by hundreds and fifties. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up into heaven, and he blessed and broke the loaves, and he gave them to his disciples, and set before them. And he divided the 2 fishes among them, and they all ate and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments and of the fishes, and those who ate of the loaves were about 5,000 men. And immediately he constrained his disciples to get into the ship and to go to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he sent the people away. And when he had sent them away, he went into a mountain to pray. And when evening had come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he was alone in the land. And he saw them toiling in rowing, for the wind was contrary to them. And about the 4th watch of the night he came to them walking upon the sea, and would have passed by them, but when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed that it was a ghost. And they cried out, for they all saw him, and were troubled. And immediately he talked with them, and said, Be of good cheer, it is I. Do not be afraid. And he went up into the ship to them, and the wind stopped. And they were very amazed within themselves beyond measure, and wondered, for they did not consider the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. And when they had passed over, they came into the land of Gennesaret, and drew to shore. When they had come out of the ship, immediately they knew him. And they ran through that whole region all around, and began to carry in beds those who were sick, wherever they heard that he was. And wherever he entered into villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets, and begged him that they might, as it were, touch but the border of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. Mark's Gospel, chapter 7. Then the Pharisees and some of the scribes came together to him, having come from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with common, that is to say, with unwashed hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they wash their hands with the fist diligently, holding the tradition of the elders. And when they come from the market, they do not eat unless they wash. And there are many other things which they have received to hold, the washing of cups and pots, and brass vessels, and of tables. Then the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, Why do your disciples not walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? But he answered and said to them, Well has Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. However, they worship me in vain, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, you hold the tradition of men, the washing of pots and cups, and many other such things you do. And he said unto them, Full well you reject the commandment of God, so that you may keep your own tradition. For Moses said, Honor your father and your mother, and whoever curses father or mother, let him die the death. But you say, If a man shall say to his father or mother, Whatever you may gain by me, Korban, that is to say, it is a gift of God, and you no longer allow him to do anything toward his father and mother, making the word of God of no effect through your tradition, which you have delivered. And you do many such things. And when he had called all the people, he said to them, Listen to me, every one of you, and understand. There is nothing from outside a man which entering into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are the ones that defile the man. If any man has ears to hear, let him hear. And when he had entered into the house away from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. And he said to them, Are you also without understanding? Do you not perceive that whatever enters into the man from outside cannot defile him, because it does not enter into his heart, but into the belly, and goes out into the draught, purifying all food? And he said, That which comes out of the man is what defiles the man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things come from inside, and defile the man. And he arose from there, and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon. And he entered into a house, and desired no one to know it, but he could not be hidden. For a woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by race, and she begged him that he would cast the demon out of her daughter. But Jesus said to her, Let the children first be filled, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. And she answered and said to him, Yes, Lord, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said to her, For this saying, Go your way, the demon has gone out of your daughter. And when she had come to her house, she found the demon had gone out, and her daughter lay upon the bed. And again departing from the coast of Tyre and Sidon, he came to the Sea of Galilee, through the midst of the borders of Decapolis. And they brought to him one who was deaf and had an impediment in his speech. And they begged him to put his hand upon him. And he took him aside from the multitude, and put his fingers into his ears. And he spat and touched his tongue. And looking up to heaven, he sighed, and said to him, Ephphatha, that is, be opened. And immediately his ears were opened, and the band on his tongue was loosened, and he spoke plainly. And he commanded them that they should tell no man. But the more he charged them, so much the more they proclaimed it. And they were astonished beyond measure, saying, He has done all things well. He makes both the deaf to hear, and the dumb to speak.
For me.